14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. Bonjour, bienvenue, and welcome to the 12th chapter of Stories Steeped in Stone. My name is Debbie Kaye, and I get to be your host for this evening. I'm really glad that you joined us here live in the studio at the Ermatinger Heritage Discovery Center, and we want to welcome those of you who are watching us live from home via live stream. We want to begin by acknowledging with respect that we are gathered here on the Robinson-Huron Treaty Territory, which is the traditional territories of the Bowading, Garden River, and Métis First Nations people. So what is Stories Steeped in Stone? For those of you who have never seen one of the shows, it's a performance series, and it features a lineup of every kind of artist you can think of: music, theater, storytelling, poetry, dance, performance art, and heritage presentations. The performers get their inspiration from our land and our city and from our memories. No two performances are alike, so we do hope you'll go to YouTube, look up Stories Steeped in Stone, and catch the rest of the series. Let's begin. So the Heritage series has paid tribute to a lot of our ancient history, but it also pays tribute to our iconic neighborhoods where we grew up. Tonight, we're pleased to present two stories, both written by local authors and directed by Loretta Durant. Our first performance is based on a book called Black Madonna by F.G. Paci. It's about the early 60s in one of our most famous neighborhoods, James Street. It'll be performed by an arts teacher, Dan Lance. And the second story is from the book Arcadia Borealis by George Case. It takes us back to the 1970s and what it's like to grow up next to the railroad tracks on Lyne Road. It's performed by a young actor who's actually done several of the Steeped in Stone series, and his name is Jarrett Mills. So please welcome A Neighborhood Story.
James Street, where he would stand at the corner with his buddies, eating bag after bag of sunflower seeds and chucking the shells onto the sidewalk, horsing around and talking about nothing in particular. It was just so good to be out and acting as if you owned the street. Then going to Tony's and shooting a few, or pinball at Joe's. There was always some sort of game to play to occupy your time. As kids, if it wasn't marbles or tossing baseball cards up against the wall or playing kick the can, it was baseball at the head of the street or the hockey rink at the McFadden. James Street was their headquarters, though. It was the two confectionery stores, Pat and Joe's, where they got comics or licorice or pack after pack of bubble gum cards. Oh, and Peepees, where they always went to get skates, or their Peepees, where they always went to get secondhand skates or running shoes. And the grocery stores, Ciotti's or Scarfoni's, or Ciotti's and Scarfones, where they would swipe fruit right from the sidewalk stands. Oh, and Jerry's Diner, where the guys would meet over Cokes and talk about the latest sports phenom, or they'd take their first dates for an ice cream cone and thus clean them for life. Oh, and the other places, the clothing store, the barber shop, the hardware stores with the mitts and the balls, and the taxi stand with that tardy dispatch woman. And the two taverns with that awful smell coming from the vents. It was only 2 blocks long, but somehow it was their whole world.
Sault Ste. Marie stands at the foot of the Canadian Shield, close by Lake Superior. It's a place of high, wide horizons that rise over prehistoric rock to the north, inland seas to the west and the east. Then there's the broad American heartland to the south. It's kind of a land's end in the middle of a continent. You see, Lyne Road was just off of Sault Ste. Marie's downtown core, within easy walking distance of an ordinary family's staple institutions circa 1972. There's Central Public School, Lakeway Collegiate and Vocational School, Sault Collegiate Institute High School, Dominion Grocery Store, St. Luke's Anglican Cathedral, Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, or the Windsor Coffee Shop, or the Orpheum and the Odeon Movie Theater, post office, public library, courthouse, Jupiter Variety Store with lunch counter, Sault Stationers, the Smoke Shop, yes, the Smoke Shop, Liquor Control Board of Ontario, and Arthur Funeral Home. You know, it might have been a toy village for this giant child, just laid out as this perfect microcosm of everyday activity. Work, school, commerce, justice, learning, recreation, worship, childhood, youth, adulthood, death. This was no picket fence suburbia. You see, behind our house was a train yard for the Canadian Pacific Railway, just an expanse of gravel, scrap metal, and rail lines that were just called the CPR. Yeah, I didn't grow up on the wrong side of the tracks. I grew up right on them. There was this, you know, at night we would hear the shunting of just the box cars, the flat cars, tankers, hoppers, and engines. It was this thunderous steel rumble that just seemed like a living, natural sound that we barely noticed. There was also a leafy, unpaved back laneway that ran westward behind the houses of Wellington Street. Oh, and then to the north was the Olympus of Collegiate Hill, looking down upon much of the city. The funeral home's parking lot stood at the end of Lyne Road, and it served as this a sporting field, a battleground, movie set, racing track, just this terra nullius for us kids. You know, in the winter, the municipal plows and trucks would pile snow at either end of the lot, just recreating these gothic cliffs and castles and mountains in child scales. Come spring, the snow would melt and turn into these oceanic puddles, which would dry up by the summertime as another cycle of exploration, imagination, alliance, and warfare began. And because the road was so short, and our parents imposed boundaries that were so fixed by the train lines and the busier adjacent streets, we children lived in this self-contained, conceptual nation that I dreamt as Linwood. You see, I've done a lot of branching off over the years, but I remember my roots.
Dan Lance and Jarrett Mills. I myself have so many memories of Sault Ste. Marie. Some of you know that I moved away it was about 50 years ago, but since I've really been back here to live. I grew up in a neighborhood. When my father brought our family to Sault Ste. Marie, it was back in 1962, and we were living in a little neighborhood that was bordered by Tankard and Dennis and Albert and Wellington in a little walk-up flat. And it was there that we began our lives just running crazy in the alleyways and wreaking havoc. And then we moved up to Terrence Avenue, and then we moved out to Fourth Line. And I got to go to boarding school after going to Campbell. And it was when I was at boarding when an offer came through for me to go to Toronto to work for the Canadian National Exhibition and the Tommy Hunter Show. And my musical teacher back then was Frank Elliott. And he told my mother, hey, opportunities like this don't come along very often, so you should take it. And so I did. And I spent the rest of my life out there building a career. But I haven't forgotten my roots, which all started here. I got to sing and play in pretty much all the venues there are, Deborah and Echo Bay and Blind River and Thessalon and out at Harmony with the Fucheks and at Bar X Ranch in the dance hall when they used to have a ranch and a dance hall. And I got to play with the likes of Fred Kent and the Northern Airs and Bill Haight and Grace Kozak. These are names that will be familiar to the older members of our audience. They were the roots of it all. So in coming home here, I couldn't think of anywhere else that I would rather live. And after a terrible year last year where I lost my spouse and really looked around and went, I need to go home. I'm glad that I've chosen to come back here. When I talked to Wendy Hamilton, who's the project manager of Stories Steeped in Stone, I shared with her a little poem song that I had written for a show that I did here. Actually, it was one of my very last performances back in 2005, I think it was. And so I haven't sung since then. I had a truck that ran over me and ended pretty much everything else that I was doing. So you'll have to pardon a very rusty voice, but I'd like to share it with you because it's a Sioux song, if that's okay with you. I remember driving Daddy's car down Queen Street after dark, slowing down past Muio's, then off to Bellevue Park, coffee breaks at Guffin's, and parking at the locks. Before the mall and boardwalk, taking walks along the docks, sneaking cigarettes and kisses out behind Marconi Hall. Go-go boots and mini skirts all led to our downfall. Oh, you too. Algoma Steel got some of us, and some just moved away. Wonder what you're thinking now about your childhood days. I remember everything, and I remember you. Pictures of our faces and the things we used to do. Everything I've ever had began in time with you. I remember everything, and I remember you. I used to walk in graveyards just to get some quiet time. But now the names upon the stones are good old friends of mine. I beg you now to call someone, tell them you're still here. Success in life is who you love and not your damn career. I remember you. Do you remember me? 'Cause I remember you. Well, we are so excited about tonight's show. We're privileged to experience a special performance by Jay Case and Frank Deresti. These two extraordinary artists have collaborated over many years. They are deeply connected to our lands and waters. As a matter of fact, when I was trying to catch up with Jay to ask him some questions, he was out of cell range because he was out in the middle of the woods somewhere. Jay comes from a beloved musical family in Sault Ste. Marie. His mom and his uncles were all touring musicians. I got to work with his uncle Mike Case before he left us. He's a gifted singer and songwriter. Jay's albums and performances exemplify the best that Canada has to offer. He's accompanied tonight by his longtime friend, Frank Deresti, who honestly is one of the best musicians in Sault Ste. Marie. He's a musical instructor at the Algoma Conservatory of Music. He's put together award-winning bands, and if you need somebody for a recording session or a big musical project, you call Frank. Jay's going to take us through his childhood, his formative years, his adulthood, stories about people, places, events in his life that have shaped the person who he is today. I wrote down something that he said at rehearsal. He said, a person is not merely from a place and time, but they are made of that place and time. So I'm excited to be one of the audience members that get to watch and listen to the pride of Sault Ste. Marie, Jay Case and Frank Deresti.
Thank you so much, Deb. It's an absolute honor to be here, first of all, part of this series, and to be introduced by such a legend as Deb is absolutely amazing, and we appreciate it very much. Thank you. This is my friend Frank. I'm Jay. We were both born here in Sault Ste. Marie. I'm not sure where Frank was born, but I was born just a block or two over at the General Hospital, which I assume many of us who were born in Sault Ste. Marie were born. So already there's a tight connection between the neighborhood. Wake, love, rise up and welcome the day. Let light wash the darkness away, love. Feel every word you can't say. Release all your burdens to fade away. Away, the concrete below starts to shake. Your mind and the body you make, love. Feelings you once had to fade are all that your poor heart can take. Away, away. Thank you so very much, everyone. I was told one time by a good friend of mine that when the singer-songwriter's tuner goes on, their brain shuts off. So I always try to limit the amount of things I say while I'm tuning. Leave it to just sort of empty chat. So, yes, I was born here at General Hospital, but I wasn't raised there. I grew up out on Case Road for almost my entirety of my life, which is, if you don't know where that is, it's north of the city. It's in a rural area. It's basically in nature, and especially so when I was young. It was much more sparsely populated than it is now, but it's still a delightful spot to be. And I was connected to the land super early in my life. I was connected to food through gardening. I was connected through water. We didn't have a well, and we didn't have city water, and we didn't even have a well until I think I was 18. So up until then, I had to put a sand point in the creek behind our home and maintain that. If you've ever worked with a sand point to draw your water, it can be a bit problematic in a low creek in winter. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. But it gave me a respect for the water giving life and also piston pumps as well. I better take a drink after saying that. I respect water so much, I should probably drink it. How could I forget all I remember? Snowbanks overhead, so much warmer once we've been so cold. I remember you. And in the garden, you showed me what was good. And then you told me I knew that I could. It doesn't matter if the story has settled all my worries, they still ring true today. We are all made of time and place. I remember you. Oh, I remember you. Get lost inside your head and not remember anything you said. Well, I remember you. Oh, I remember you. Oh, I remember you. I remember you. Thanks very much, gang. So that's actually a brand new song that I don't know if any of you beautiful people have heard, even the people closest to me. And Frank helped me write that. And this is a shot. I'm the one with the red pants, in case you were wondering. This is out at my camp, which is another part of my formative years that we'll get to. It's up the 129, the Highway 129 towards Chapleau, way out in the middle of nowhere. But now we don't want to rush ahead too much in the story. So we're into my adolescent years, and I'm growing, and I attended a public school, which is no longer a school, it's now a daycare. It was called Prince Charles Public School. And before it was called Prince Charles Public School, it was called GM Johnson School, and my mother and uncles attended. So it's generational. And now it's a daycare. Pretty soon it'll turn into a long-term care facility, and then I can go back in. Just complete that circle. But all the time I was playing. I used to love being outdoors. Prince Charles was a great school. For that, we had a huge field in the back, and we used to just literally just run in through the trees, and that was fun for us. We didn't need a ball even. Just run through the trees and try not to knock your head off. And that was all we needed to do, us country folk. A silvery hue to words spoken falsely true. Assure you what I aim to do is live my life thinking of you. And I hope that you like what you see. If I show you the man I intend to be. Well, it's easy, though hard to explain. The morning arrives like a train. For you, I'll claim England or Spain. Plant your flag in desert or rain. And I'm thankful what you've done for me. Well, you've shown me the man I was meant to be. I'm gonna keep trying to be the man I intend to be. All right. Thank you so much, friends. I'm just going to shut my brain off here again for a second. So now we move into teenage years. Oh dear, that scares even me. But I attended high school at the place named after the Anishinaabe term for where we live, which is Bawading. So I went to Bawading C and VS, and all that time, I thought I was an athlete. I was an athlete then, and I played sports, and I still played outside all the time. Now I was doing more of it on my own. It used to be guided in a way, but now I was going out to my camp on my own because I could drive near the end of my high school years, and I would drive out, and this carpet that you see here is a little piece of carpet that used to reside in the camp itself. And I can still see this covering the floor of the camp. And I can almost smell the mustiness and the probably mouse leavings. If that, yeah, I'm sure it's fine. But I used to cultivate on my own sort of identity of camp and my own sort of respect for the things that you could run into at camp, like moose and bears and other humans, which is the most dangerous of all. And I learned to do that on my own as I was growing into my teenage years. But it developed in me a foundation of sort of self-identity. That's kind of what this next song is about. Crying, almost weeping, she's alone again. She's lost another fight in her life, pretend. She saves the pieces of a photograph of him, arranges them only when the memories grow dim. She is a martyr for her only daughter, the portrait of a saint. There was salvation on this old foundation. She gave it away. Beautiful you. Beautiful you. The evening's last cigarette burns bright in her hand, and 2 fingers over rests her mother's wedding band. Well, she finds it hard now to picture herself as a wife, and she's lost another star in the shrinking sky of light. She is a martyr for her only spirit of a saint. There was salvation on this old foundation. She gave it away. Beautiful you. Beautiful you. Faded, not jaded, she's alone for a while. Energy waning, she'll manage to smile. 3 times a week now, she prays after sundown, the foot of her bed. She prays for salvation on this old foundation. She bows her head. Beautiful you. Beautiful you. Beautiful you. Beautiful you. Thank you so much. So, along that path that you travel, especially in your teenage years, you start to lose confidence if you are met with challenges along the way or deviations in your plan. We all have these grand plans when we start out. And then when we're young adults, kind of what that last song could be about is realizing that your plan is your plan, your journey is your journey, and you shouldn't hold any other expectation for yourself. You can't get down on yourself if you're not living the journey that you thought you would, maybe when you were 9 or 10 or 12. I was pretty sure I was going to be in the National Basketball Association. Chris can attest to that. Yeah, and that just wasn't in the cards for so many reasons. But along the way, you find that your journey is yours, and the more you accept it and accept yourself, the more beautiful life can be. And I was learning that while growing up. And after my teenage years, and I found out I wasn't an athlete, or at least anymore, I became a musician. As Deb alluded to earlier, my family is known for the musical talents that it possesses. And all through growing up, I was always around the piano with my family, not just holidays, but like every weekend and most weeknights, because my grandfather was quite a notable fiddle player, and my mom's a beautiful pianist and has just the most beautiful voice. She sings harmony on that last song on my most recent album, and the album's worth it just for that harmony part. Whoops. Don't. All right. My mom was supposed to be here tonight, and this would have been a lot harder or a lot easier if she were here. Anyway, she's not here. Hopefully she's following one of these cameras live tonight. Anyway, so I grew up with music absolutely flowing through and around my home, and I finally accepted it, became a musician, started traveling and learning a bunch new lessons along with this young man here. And some of those lessons are evidenced maybe in this next song called Home. Looking back when I had all I need, all the bad is faded out, good is all I see. Well, I've given all that I can give, and I've taken enough for three. But this hole in the middle of myself is begging me to feed it. The pictures left, their silhouettes on the faded walls at night. I can see your face by the fireplace if the moon's just right. Oh, well, I'll take a cup of the strongest stuff just to blur my sight. It's not enough and I should sober up so I can fight this fight. 'Cause I want my home. Don't need that home. Oh, I want my home. 'Cause I want my home. Don't need that home. Yeah. Well, I wrote some words you haven't heard, and I put them in a song. They were for you, they'll be for someone new. No, it won't be long. Oh, a pretty one, 'cause I'm my father's son. I was never very strong, but I'll think of you, yes, and when I do, the memories will be fond. 'Cause I want my home. I don't need that home. Oh, yes, 'cause I want my home. I don't need that home. Oh, I want my home. 'Cause I want my home. Thank you so much. Thanks to Dan and Jarrett for that beautiful set of monologues at the very beginning. It's interesting. There's quite a bit of serendipity that happened with this show. When I was approached and then I applied to be a part of the show, it just dovetailed so well because most of my recent work just talks about growth in an area and ties me to this place so much. And then having Deb write that beautiful song that she wrote that I didn't know that I basically copied her with my second song until dress rehearsal last night. I said, oh, that's interesting. And one of the authors, I believe it was the one that Jarrett performed his monologue, is George Case. And yes, we are in fact related back through history. And Frank Paci, also another Siouxite. My partner Sherry has been reading his books. So serendipity is alive and well, ladies and gentlemen, in these halls. This next song, which I play in the key of F, for those of you following at home. That was me asking Frank, by the way. This song, again, is about those times of flux that we all experience and challenges, and all we can fall back on, what is automatic, is like imprinted in us, is all those lessons which we've learned. And I've found that the lessons that we learn are never really taught directly to us. Our best lessons and our most sort of deepest rooted lessons are always learned on our own. And sometimes it feels lonely when you do that, but keep in mind that you're using that energy and that knowledge from people who've been through your life, and it's still helping you all the time, and I keep that in mind. Found myself in Sudbury, withering and blue. I fought the urge to drink away all bad thoughts of you. I passed by many strangers I'd swore I'd met before. I found the heart to crack a smile, 'cause we're all in this war. This bitterness is fleeting, and I'm a book that's not worth reading. Being me is beginning to get old. In this January cold, and as I made my way around this gray town late at night, no path or destination lit in pale fluorescent light. Thought about the way that my grandfather used to tell me to love what it is I'm doing and to do it well. Winds are growing stronger and the nights seem ever longer. Better man might go home as he's told. From this January cold, cover up our faces and we're hastening our paces. The warmest hearts are worth their weight in gold. In this January cold, it's hard to find a meaning in a book that's not worth reading. Being me is beginning to get old. In this January cold, in this January cold. Thank you so much. And then after we go through periods of flux and strife and change, sometimes, I don't know the exact quote, but creation is a very destructive process. And in order to create anew, a lot of things might have to get destroyed. But in that creation, we find, again, sometimes we might lose people. And I've sort of, what's given me solace over the years is I've realized that we've maybe lost people physically that are maybe not part of our life anymore, but what we have now is we have them inside of us, and in that way they can live on forever. It's nothing about DNA, it's about what they've given you through your life is now actually a physical part of you, and you can use that forever and ever. And I used to have an apartment just across the street, like literally across the street from here. If that wall or those walls weren't there, I could probably throw my guitar and hit my old apartment. I would never do such a thing. But yeah, and so this was one of the places that I started to rebuild, like a short, tiny little white phoenix. 4 days I've not seen your smiling eyes. Nothing much has changed round here, stuck inside. Through the glass I see only rain fall on the ground. It's always sunny when you're around. A week ago we last breathed the same air. I know it's for the best, but it don't seem fair. And I won't take for granted togetherness, my dear. But it's always sunny with you near. A month has passed and here I still remain. Well, I hold you in my heart, but it's not the same. There's nothing to do with weather, and it ain't about the sky. It's always sunny with you nearby. Oh, life may never be the same. Oh, but let's not separate the kindness from the pain and the rain. So long now I've stopped counting the days. For so much has passed in so many ways. Now's the time for doing, but I can't get nothing done. It's always sunny, 'cause you're the sun. There's all this time for doing, but I can't get nothing done. It's always sunny when you're the sun. Well, it's always sunny and you're the sun. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate that very much. Those of you that know me know that I like to get out camping as much as I possibly can into the wilderness, as deep into the wilderness as I can with my partner, Sherry. Frank is much the same as I in that regard, in many regards, but that one particularly. And this is a beautiful sunset that I captured on Samo Lake, north of Ranger Lake, when Sherry and I went on a 10-day canoeing excursion, hundreds of kilometers into the bush. And that's kind of what I do now, as often as I can. But I have to keep in mind, and I do keep in mind, that we are all, our self-identity, or my self-identity, I can't speak for anyone else, but my self-identity is completely relative to my context within the community, the greater whole. And I'm a firm believer that we are part of a greater whole in whatever way that is. But I am only me relative to everyone else. And that keeps me going. And in order to buttress my solitude in the bush, I love to explore so much in this beautiful community of ours. And I appreciate all of you being a part of this. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you to all the people that helped put this together. The two Mikes, Rob, Wendy, Barb, Deb, thank you so very much. And Loretta and all of you, most importantly, the audience. Without you, we would just be sitting in an empty room chatting, probably. So, and thank you so much to Frank for always being by my side. And I'm not going to get weepy about that. But I would like to submit to you that in that way, in the ways that you've just seen, I am of this place rather than just being from Sault Ste. Marie. And thank you again so very much, everyone. Where do we begin? How do we explain where we find ourselves now? It's like breathing in a chest full of air without ever breathing out. There's a beauty in everything I've set my eyes upon. But when we overanalyze, we find the beauty's gone. There ain't no use to scream and shout. Call in the mothers and let's figure this out. On the eve of the end, we'll gather together more than before and closer than ever, when we can't pretend we can dress for the weather more than before and closer than ever. Bay of a shallow sea, any breeze can turn you round. without much to say, and no one to be, we'll likely run aground. There ain't no use to kick and shout, calling the mothers and let's figure this thing out. On the eve of the end, we'll gather together more than before, and closer than ever, when we can't pretend we're dressed for the weather, more than before, and closer than ever. If we find ourselves and set it right, we might make it out as one. And with the shared exhale, to keep it in our sights, we can catch the setting sun. There ain't nothing to cry about. Call the grandmothers and let's figure this thing out. On the eve of the end, we'll gather together more than before, and closer than ever, when we can't pretend we're dressed for the weather, more than before, and closer than ever. Here we go again, for worse or for better, more than before, and closer than ever. We're free as a bird and light as a feather, more than before, and closer than ever. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, gang. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you. Hope I didn't run too long there. Well,
I have to say to your mom, you turned out pretty good, didn't you?
my mom would be chuffed that Debbie Lori Kaye told her that.
The songs that you sang tonight, I saw that we have some CDs in the lobby. If you're interested, grab them up. Are any of the wonderful originals tonight on any of those?
Yeah. I think 6 of those or 5 of those are on that album. And like I said, it was like serendipitous to be approached for this particular show because that's exactly what I was writing about, Wendy.
Excellent.
And 3 or 4 of them. What's that? That's right. It's out there. Yeah. And then the other 3 are songs written for the next album.
And that should be coming out. Any idea?
As soon as I start recording it.
Oh, there's that.
There's that part, and writing the rest of the songs and things like
Yeah,
that. But
yeah.
it's in the works. Yeah, always in the works.
Excellent. I'm going to talk to your soul brother.
Aha.
I was so delighted to be able to see you playing the mandolin because, I mean, you play everything under the sun, every instrument I think that there is. And I also understand that you are building a brand new band, and with your history, it's going to be a good one. What's it called?
I've got a group called Ontarians, which is a friend of mine from Collingwood named Craig Smith, and I got together and wrote a bunch of songs, and then we recruited our friend Jay Stiles from Austin, Texas to play keyboards, And recently, we put out a record last year. We're almost finished a second album.
Excellent.
And we're starting to play live shows now. So Jay Case has agreed to be the bass player in that.
I know, isn't that great? It's wonderful.
I weaseled my way in, gang.
It's wonderful now that there are live audiences out there instead of us singing to just the camera. I'm just delighted to have been able to be here and join you and be present for this performance. Jay Case and Frank Deresti.
Thanks, Deb.
I lost my microphone. There it is. This concludes our evening. And before I read our closing notes, I want to first thank all of you who came out and joined us here in the live audience. And a big thanks to those of you who are live streaming. And I want to bring back to the stage our other performers, Dan Lance and Jarrett Mills. Please welcome them back. I'm going to read you my closing remarks because then I'll get them right. Story Steeped in Stone is brought to you by the partnership of Friends of Ermatinger Clergue National Historical Site and Theatre in Motion. We are grateful for the funding from Canadian Heritage, which allows this series to come to life. And we sure want to thank our production crew, everybody. It takes a lot of hours to put this together. Thank you, Wendy, for asking me to join in this. Big thanks to our main performers this evening. We appreciate having you with us. I say in closing, Chimegwich, merci, and good night. Thank you. Thank you, Barb. I think Wendy, did you want to take your
Yes.
Kind of like